What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a film that was just released on VOD recently that I knew virtually nothing about. And lately, I've been going on Prime Video and seeing these films released on VOD. And I'll just like read the quick plot description or like look at the poster and be like, okay, this is enough for me to want to go check this out. And the premise of this sounded really interesting. It's a brief, like hour and 17-minute runtime. So I thought I would check this movie out. And the movie I'm going to be discussing with you today is Kill Your Lover. Kill Your Lover is directed by Keir Seward and Alex Austin. When Dakota tries to break off her toxic relationship with Axel, it starts transforming him into a monstrous creature. He gradually succumbs to the poison of the decaying relationship, becoming a creature with increased aggression, a touch that melts skin, and worst of all, he's contagious. So I was really excited to watch this. I thought it was a really interesting concept. And unfortunately, this movie did not work for me. And it's upsetting because I think the directors had a really cool idea. I just think they fumble the execution, and I think that it's a little bit too on the nose to really make sense to try to do this monstrous creature design as an allegory when all of the dialogue is so on the nose and in your face, telling you exactly what they're trying to represent with the symbolism of this transformation. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as I break the movie down as a whole. At the beginning of the film, we're introduced to Dakota and Axel, and they're in a relationship, and we get flashbacks to how their relationship started. Dakota seems to be a very free-spirited person who is very comfortable in her own skin, and she likes what she likes, and she's into these different things. She has a very like goth punk aesthetic, and the two of them we see the very first time that they hook up, and Axel is asking her a bunch of questions. They're getting to know each other, and throughout the beginning part of the film, we see their first few dates and kind of how they grow and they figure out things about one another. And then we jump forward into the future, and Dakota has kind of completely ditched her punk aesthetic. She's not really anything like she used to be when the two of them met. And Axel starts to get very sick. He comes home from work one day and he's like throwing up in the bathroom and something's wrong with him, and they end up having a conversation together, and he's very toxic towards her and he's very mean towards her. And we learn that Dakota is wanting to leave this relationship, and she's talked to one of her friends. She's like, I don't think this is working. I don't think this is healthy for me. And as the plot description states, Axel starts turning into this monster. When he touches people, it like burns their skin off. He's got like these nasty like black veins running through his whole body, and the entirety of the film is her trying to escape this toxic relationship. So as I said, unfortunately this movie didn't work for me, and it might work for you, but unfortunately for me, someone who really can appreciate like overt symbolism and horror and trying to use horror as an allegory for real life, I don't want it to be this on the nose. I will say for positives, I did enjoy the two lead performances. I thought that they did a really great job embodying these characters that feel like they've been in a relationship for a while, especially when things start to blow up, and then the way that they have like the fresh and exciting newness of their relationship and discussing the things that they enjoy, discussing their likes and dislikes. I really liked how natural that felt. And the first act of this movie honestly was my favorite part of the film. I enjoyed it more than when the movie got horrific, which is kind of surprising considering like I'm a huge horror and gore hound, but I really liked the personal writing at the beginning. And I almost feel like if this director approach this movie in like a more traditional way, not using this horror overt gore fest, that maybe it honestly would have worked better for me, which is weird because of how much I love horror. And I did really love the practical effects in the movie. There's a lot of goop and grime, and I really liked a lot of those elements, and you could tell for the limited budget, the directors here did a really nice job at paying really close attention to detail at how nasty and gross everything looked. And like I said, they do a really great job early on in the movie establishing the connection between these characters. And a lot of the scenes early on between the characters are during sex scenes. And I think it makes it feel more intimate and personal. And the way that they're sharing these conversations with one another, it's easy to connect with because these characters are in their most vulnerable state. They're both naked through most of the scenes. And I like that. I think that that showcases the vulnerability in the relationship. It gives us a little bit more insight into these characters, considering the fact we only get an hour and 15 hour and 17 minutes with them for this to pay off. But what really doesn't work for me me is when the transformation happens, because what ends up happening here is the horror of like this guy transforming and like grabbing a hold of his girlfriend and it like searing off her skin and all of that. When it becomes very literal and real, to where you have these like healthcare police workers coming in and they're like getting attacked by him, it becomes very literal and less symbolic. And when everyone's taking it seriously, then you're like, okay, so this is really happening. And you're also going to have long expositional bouts of dialogue about all the mistakes that this person has made to essentially make Dakota's life more difficult. Axel has been very toxic and controlling, and I really liked there were moments that were kind of alluding to that. Like he got frustrated. She has this wall of like photographs, and there's this picture of a woman. It's implied that she's bisexual, and there's like a picture of her with this woman with like her top off, and he gets like really frustrated when he sees that, and he's constantly questioning her about all of these decisions that she's making in her life. And I liked those little moments that lead up to the overall chaos. I think those work really well, but there's these long bouts of expositional dialogue towards the third act of like, do you remember that time we went to your parents' house, blah blah blah. And it's like so on the nose. And I think that if they would have stripped some of that away, and it would have just been more the chaos of like he gets into a situation where he can't even really be verbal anymore, and it's just the toxicity embodied, it would have been a lot more effective. But I was just kind of rolling my eyes towards the third act at some of this just really on the nose dialogue. And the very last sequence was pretty cringeworthy. They tried to do kind of a one-off like wink and nod one-liner that just didn't really work. I feel like if it would have been a quieter build-up, I would have been a lot more fine. I would have probably laughed at it, honestly, if there would have been less dialogue. But it's like, we get what you're going for here. And I talk about this a lot of times, and this might not necessarily be the thing, you know, when you're going into making a movie, you might not think about this, but I don't like when films feel like they treat their audiences like they're unable to interpret something. And in a movie like this, where it is so on the nose what they're trying to say, you don't need all of that additional expositional dialogue. Like, we get it. Like, as an audience, we understand what you're going for, we understand what you're trying to say. You don't need to spell it out for us over and over again. And I think that's what really frustrated me the most about this movie, was when there were moments where it could have been quiet and they could have just used the visual effects to accentuate the message of the film. They just decided to bog you down with dialogue that just felt really on the nose and really cringeworthy. And it's unfortunate because, as I said, I really liked the early parts of this movie. They felt very natural, and the actors had really fantastic chemistry. That when that chemistry started to break apart, you could feel it. It was really palpable. And to shift into that direction in the end, it just really disappointed me. And I think this is a movie, you know, it's an independent film. It's worth you taking the time to go check out if this sounds interesting to you at all, because it might work better for you than it worked for me. I just can't stand when movies are that on the nose. And I think that if it was a lot less on the nose, I would have liked it a hell of a lot more. So have you seen Kill Your Lover? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie had an excellent premise, just the execution was really bad. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.